Sorry, battery died, but we're almost done. I'm going to try and see if I can get, it's a little bit, I don't know. Let's get going. So where I left off, he said, I associated this detail, the left shirt pocket, with the feeling side of myself. This is because I never thought of myself as a feeling kind of person. I thought feeling types, in quotes, were the highly emotional ones. I thought that since I'm not given to displays of emotion and can't stand much sentimentality, I was not a feeling type, that I was dominated by thinking or intuition. It was this association to the heart that made me look more closely and see that Jung did not mean emotional when he referred to a feeling type or a feeling function. This symbol forced me to look more closely at myself. I began to realize that the aspect of life that really motivates me, around which I involuntarily revolve my life, is the feeling side. The people who draw my love and whose magnificent quality I sense, and the values that capture my devotion and loyalty. It is these feeling relationships of valuing and sensing the value in people that energize my life and give it its center. That which moves me and inspires me most deeply in all of life is the beauty, nobility, and inner quality that I see in the human beings who come in contact with me. Until I had this dream, I had always tried to repress this stream of energy inside of me, downplay it, and keep it under wraps. In the family and the culture in which I grew up, feeling was not openly displayed. It was considered embarrassing, untrustworthy, impractical. If you were moved too deeply by a symphony, you would be considered a little strange. If you showed too much affection, it made others uncomfortable. Anyone who made decisions from the heart rather than from cool practicality was considered suspect as undependable. To feel, to love intensely, to be intoxicated with the beauty of a person, something in nature, or a value, all of this would be inappropriate and out of place in respectable society. In the aftermath of this dream and in my interaction with this symbol, I discovered my typology and the laws that go with it. I find that I am introverted. I find that I am an introverted feeling type, and the mainspring of my life is different than I had thought. So I identified the part of myself that seems to correspond to this symbol, and I found a specific set of dynamics in my inner life that showed this part of me in action. The movement of the money to this pocket seemed to me to represent a new investment of my energy, my capacities, my life itself. In the feeling function, I felt that it represented investing in a new center of consciousness, corresponding to the heart and the Anahata chakra. The next symbol is the Hoodlums. During the first step, I said that I associate the Hoodlums with my inner shadow, my alter ego that is still unconscious and contains aspects of my personality that have yet to be integrated into my ego's point of view. And I have to find specific aspects of my life in which I see this shadow at work. If I look at my dream again as a series of developmental stages, something comes clear. The Hoodlum side seems to be a reappearance of the other complication in my Williams Avenue background, the Japanese greengrocer. The problem is the appearance of an introverted feeling quality in my life, setting up a terrible conflict with my Anglo culture and training. It shows up first in the Japanese family, then it reappears, and the conflict goes into a further development in the form of the shadow, the Hoodlum quality. The introverted feeling quality is mine, but it couldn't find a respectable place to live in my ego world. Therefore, it got repressed into a vacant lot, a little island of the unconscious inside my field of consciousness. My ego sees this part of me as a hoodlum. Isn't that something? My ego sees this side of me as a hoodlum, but since the hoodlum appears as 4, the dream is telling me that the hoodlum is a crucial part of me and that I need him in order to make myself whole. It's amazing. Another reason that these shadow parts of ourselves show up as hoodlums is that they are forced into a life of crime, so to speak, in order to survive in a world that is dominated by the ego and the ego's values. For example, if a feeling kind of man refuses to live his feeling side, his shadow will steal energy from him and invest it for him in his feeling side. Mostly this is done by compulsions. We fall in love against our will. Our hearts suddenly go off on crazy paths of their own, leaving our cool, collected minds aghast and struggling vainly to maintain order and dignity. Our hoodlum feelings also steal energy by putting us into depressions and other moods. They make us physically ill. Depressions and moods and illness produce rather low-grade feeling lives, but the unconscious apparently feels that something is better than nothing. That's amazing. So this is very important for people who do have the expression of depression coming forth in their lives. He's saying that in many ways our repression of our inner unconscious selves will come through in a state of neurosis in order to get our attention. So if you have it, it's not a sign of who you are innately. It's not like you have depression, you're a depressed person. It's that, hey, something inside of me is being repressed and I need to integrate it in order to become whole and balanced again and aligned internally. Focus on my world within that's manifesting in this physical symptom. Treat yourself inwardly, do the inner work, and you heal the outward expression of the neurosis. I don't know. Makes sense. We haven't tried it. It's worth a try. So moving forward, he says, our hoodlum feelings also steal our energy by putting us into depression and other moods. I already read this. This makes us physically ill. Depressions and moods and illness produce rather low-grade feeling lives, but the unconscious apparently feels that something is better than nothing. But our inner hoodlums also perform a noble role, like Robin Hood. They steal from the rich and give to the poor. They steal from our wealthy ego empires and give to our undernourished feeling functions. I could see this part of myself at work in my life in another way also. The dream showed me that the conflict between me and my hoodlum shadow went on until we finally became friends. And the crucial thing I had to do in order to stop the robbery, the loss of energy, and to become friends was to relocate my money at a different level, at the heart level. I could see that I had been in this conflict with my introverted feeling side for many years, and it had been robbing me through compulsions, through depressions, through psychosomatic illness. And finally, now, I could see that it was possible for me to put my money at the heart level, acknowledge my true feeling nature, and make friends with my hoodlums, or his shadow side. So moving on, it says, an interpretation. As you may have noticed, I got somewhat carried away during the second step of my dream work. I wound up doing a lot of the actual interpretation, developing an overview of the dream, seeing the dream in developmental stages, tying the dream together that should actually be part of the interpretation stage. Sometimes it happens that way. I'm making sure the battery doesn't die because there's not much time left on it. Hopefully it'll let me get through. Fine. It doesn't really matter when the overall interpretation starts pouring out of you as long as it gets done. It's like he's like confessing that to you here. He goes, fine. It doesn't matter if you do it in sequential order. I mean, if it bleeds into the first step or this, whatever, it's okay. Just as long as you do interpret your dream in terms of how it relates to your inner world. As a result, my interpretation can perhaps be rather short and to the point. I can go directly to the question of what is the main overall meaning that this dream has for me and my life. Primarily, the dream shows me that I am someone different than I thought I was, and that I have the right as well as the duty to live in accord with who I really am. In the aftermath of the dream, I discover that I am an introverted feeling type. the main focus of my life has to be my feeling values and my feeling relationships to the world around me, but especially to people. Now, what does this mean to me in practice, in the way I live my life? I can take courage and start devoting myself consciously, deliberately, to the feeling world. I can devote a large portion of my time and energy to cultivating my friendships, my relationships with people. I can devote time to the activities and subjects that have quality and depth and profound meaning for me. Most important, I can do this without feeling guilty, without feeling that I am giving in to some hoodlum side of myself, entertaining myself with the warm companionship of human beings when I ought to be doing something useful, quote unquote. The essence of this dream is the relocation of energy, the relocation of energy from other levels to the heart level, the feeling level of life. I don't have to spend my life trying to think, be logical and intellectual. The dream shows this to me in a perspective that takes into account my entire life and a slow evolution that has gone on throughout my life up until the time of the dream. That evolution begins with childhood in the Garden of Eden, where I assume that there is only one point of view in life, that of my middle-class Anglo-Portland family and neighborhood. This becomes the dominant attitude system, the attitude system that runs my life for years to come, that defines my social personality and my concept of myself. The problem aspect of the evolution, the conflict that must come into every life in order to engender growth, is symbolized to me as a child by the presence of the Japanese family, examples of an introverted feeling culture that contrasts with my own and sets up involuntary resonances in the secret places in my soul. That urge to be in the midst of an unfeeling culture, a feeling human being, becomes the hoodlum. In my unconscious, banished to the vacant lot, kept in hiding. So again, his urge to be a feeling human being in the midst of an unfeeling culture that he was raised in became a hoodlum in his unconscious, something he felt ashamed of if he ever wanted to be introverted and sentimental and loving and feeling. That didn't correlate to how he was raised, so he created an inner self, a division, an aspect of himself that had to be hidden. And his dream is telling him, bring this to the surface. You need to embrace and move your association with that part of yourself to your heart. Love it and embrace it and integrate it, which he's probably going to say later, so I'll be quiet. The lysis, or resolution of the dream, the resolution of the conflict, the healing of the split inside the psyche, takes the form of this relocation of energy that is symbolized by the placing of my money at the level of the heart. Told you. This means that I can and must redefine my life around feeling values, around being a feeling person. And when my inner hoodlum finds that I have voluntarily relocated my energy, there is no longer anything to fight about. Epilogue. In the aftermath of my work on the dream of the four hoodlums, I was at a loss as to what to do as a ritual for my fourth step. It took me a long time to fully understand the implications of the dream. I didn't realize yet that I was going to eventually change the whole focus of my life and make feeling exchanges with people my top priority. But I knew I should do something, so I found a vacant lot, got out of my car, and walked around a couple of times. That helped. It got me physically connected to the dream. Then I let it rest for a while. By coincidence, it happened that I traveled through Portland, Oregon a few months later. I remembered my dream and decided that I could do a powerful ritual for reconnecting with my dream if I went back to my old neighborhood and actually walked around the places that had appeared in my dream. So it happened that I returned to the scene of both my childhood and my fateful encounter with my feeling side. I found Williams Avenue changed. I started at my old house and began walking over the routes that I had taken in my dream. I passed the Japanese greengrocers. The building was still there, now a beer hall. I walked on and was half startled to find the vacant lot was still there. After all these years, overgrown with bushes and shrubbery, irrationally, in spite of myself, I started to get scared. I was no longer in the outside world, I was in my dream. Suddenly, as I walked slowly past the vacant lot, a young man stepped out of the bushes and approached me. Well, the time had come, I thought. I was about to be robbed, just as in my dream. He was a streetwise, just like the hoodlums in the dream. He looked me over and sensed that I wanted something, that I was looking for something. Of course, he had no way of knowing what I was looking for. Of course, he had no way of knowing that I was looking for a deeper understanding of my dream, that I was walking my dream, in my dream. So he began to question me. Did I want marijuana? No. Then what about cocaine? No. Did I want a woman? No. Heroin? No. When he had exhausted his list,